Evan Holod, the chief troublemaker of Michel and Augustin. Did I pronounce that correct?
If I try to do it, it's going to sound like I'm being Michel et Augustin.
I love it.
It's
I love it.
much.
Can I get you to pull your chair aside this
Yeah,
way?
of course.
Yes, because our AV team had everything these should have had these locked in, I want to say, but maybe they didn't.
All right, we'll play a little footsie.
Well done. Evan, how are you?
I'm terrific. I'm really I'm excited to be here. It's a great conference, actually.
Have you been in NOSH Live before?
I have never been. I've never been in the NOSH. I've always been in the Bev. So never seemed to make sense for me to get there. Working at Coke, we didn't have NOSH.
Yeah.
So this is different. It's different. It's an exciting space.
It is. I mean, there's so much interesting things happening right now. We just had someone, Madison from Full Harvest, on talking about upcycling food waste, and a really important part of what's going on in the industry. This, however, is my personal passion,
me too.
which is chocolate and snacks.
I'm
Love
gonna
this
eat one.
stuff. Now, you recently became the chief troublemaker of the company, yes?
I did, and I continue to do so. So I joined Michel and Augustin in January.
Okay.
The previous 10 years I'd been at the Coca-Cola company. I worked in some of their newer brands, like Smartwater after the Glaceau acquisition. Transitioned down to Atlanta over the last 5 years to help run some of the marketing for brand Coke in the U.S.
Okay.
And so started here in January now with this goal of trying to figure out a way to tell the story of Michel and Augustin, this amazing story in France. Which have you ever been to France? Have you been to France?
I have never been to France. No.
These guys they're Ben and Jerry. They are, the combination of Ben and Jerry wrapped with Mark Cuban, wrapped with, Kickstarter. They are entrepreneurialism over there. They're excitement and fun in the food business. And so trying to find a way to bring that excitement and adventure to the U.S., that's a no-brainer.
I mean, well, making that transition from a foreign country, overseas company, to the United States, I mean, there are some challenges with that. What are some of the difficulties in, introducing this brand to American consumers?
I think the most important thing is to just not get in your own way. The countries are different, right? The cultures are different. The context for Michel and Augustin 14 years ago is different than the context in the U.S. food market today, where we've got entrepreneurs everywhere, where we've got new, exciting, fun, young brands everywhere. You can't make assumptions that you can just carry over the things that you did before. You have to be willing to go into the marketplace, and you have to be willing to, I don't want to say start over, but be willing to ask yourself, okay, if I was coming here 14 years ago and doing this, what would I do today? And have the I don't want to say guts, because that sounds like it's all that, but have the guts to be able to come in and say, okay, we have to do it a different way to be successful here. Now, never change who we are, never change the commitment to quality, the commitment to transparency, and our commitment to French pastry, and to what we call the Troublemaker spirit, the Troublemaker. Can never compromise or change that, but it has to be adapted for a market with different customers, distributors, brokers, you name it.
So chocolate and snacks is basically what you sell. I mean, tell us a little bit about the portfolio for Michel and Augustin. You have these cookie squares that are
delicious.
Actually, we see if we can get these on the brand cam.
Yeah.
But what's the portfolio look like? What are some of the things that you sell beyond just some of the cookie snacks?
So in France, Michel and Augustin is food.
Yep.
Okay. It is it's dairy with their incredibly popular drinking yogurt line, the Vache à Bois. It's mousse and fresh desserts. It's cookies, it's savory crackers, it's ready-to-drink juices and teas.
Yep.
It's an incredibly broad lineup, because what Michel and Augustin represent is this sort of transparent, fun, unique adventure in food. In the U.S., we've had to be a little bit more careful about the way we bring it to market. Everything that we have is imported. So everything is made in France and brought into the U.S. And so you can imagine the logistics and the supply chain for our business looks very different than it does over there. So we've made the decision in the short term to focus more on these products. Not just for practical reasons. I mean, frankly, they're absolutely amazing cookies. They're real butter. They're French flour. They're real chocolate. They're not gluten-free. They're not vegan. They don't have any They're an indulgent dessert. There's no cricket protein in them. They're good. but they also ship really well.
Yeah.
And they ship really well in containers. And when you're kind of planting your flag here in the US, it's really important for us to stand for something first. And that's another one of those things that we've had to learn as we've made this transition is, Michel and Augustin in France represents innovation and tons of products and categories. And here we've had to be a little bit more focused at the beginning to give us the future to get there. We'll get there. There'll be tons of categories here, but it's going to be a little bit.
So where are the products sold right now? Where's your primary distribution? Where's your retail footprint for the brand?
So we're a very interesting case study right now because we're a little bit backwards in terms of where our products are.
I'm only chuckling here because I feel like this is like the short answer to the long answer.
Yeah. So we have a really strong footprint right now in the food service and on-premise space.
Yep.
So our cookies are available in the first-class cabin on Delta. Our products are available on the campuses of Facebook, Google, Twitter, YouTube, Uber, Zillow, Nike, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase. I could keep going. And we've managed to get this really big infrastructure of on-premise locations. Mm-hmm. What we haven't yet done, and where we're going right now, is to find a way to translate that trial, that sampling, and that brand love that we're building into retail sales. And frankly, we just didn't have the right product lineup. We had a very single-serve lineup. We had these individual squares. We had them in a 4-count bar that goes in the front end. We didn't have something to disrupt the cookie shelf. So since I've come on board, basically, one of our main focus areas has been how do we put this into the right format so that we can compete on shelf and be that, I don't want to say disruptive because I feel like you have to do a shot every time you say disruptive because it's such a terrible buzzword.
Yeah.
But how can we be that force in the cookie category today that Tate's was a few years ago?
I mean, you mentioned these ship really well. So, I think you probably know what I'm going to ask next, which, I mean, there's got to be a big opportunity for these online, right? I mean, online is ground zero for growing brands right now. What does your online strategy look like?
There's definitely a huge opportunity online. Like, I would never belittle that opportunity. For us, it's a little similar still to the story that I was just telling about traditional retail, where I think that you have to have the right product lineup. You have to have things in the right configurations at the right price point to make sense in that space. We don't want to just go out with, just because it's easy to ship doesn't mean that it's in the format of the right way that the consumer wants it today. Mm-hmm. So we just launched our Amazon store about a month and a half ago. Okay. So we've been in business for about 45 days. I literally track the sales on a real-time basis every minute. We're growing about 50 to 60% week over week. Our run rate is looking really good out there, but I don't even think we've started to scratch the surface of it because the product just isn't, it's not ready for it yet. We're almost there.
So, I want to talk a little bit about, Coke, and, you said you worked there for some time. You're making this transition into the food business. Coke feels like such a great opportunity to learn about how to sell and market products. I mean, it's just one of the great companies in the world. What are some of the key takeaways that you've had in your career at Coke that you've been able to infuse and incorporate into your current role?
Well, it's funny. Coke taught me a lot of great things, and I loved my time at Coke. It was bittersweet to leave. I loved the people. I loved the brand.
It wasn't completely sweet. It was sort of bittersweet.
Yeah. Well, the dark chocolate is still pretty sweet. I mean, and this one has caramel on it, so it's a little sweeter.
Nice.
But what Coke taught me was to think about the consumer. And I didn't come from my background. I started on Wall Street when I left school. I spent years down there on the New York Stock Exchange. I wasn't trained. I didn't understand anything about consumers. I didn't understand consumer needs, occasions. I didn't understand the way their thought process was and how they make decisions. And there's nobody better at understanding that and creating a process around that than Coca-Cola. And then obviously, when you're working with something like an icon like Coke, it teaches you all about protecting and managing your brand. And Coke was great at that, but even in the glass soda days, Smart Water was, and I think continues to be today, the absolute epitome of brand management when it comes to a beverage.
Fantastic stuff, and I think that's it's so interesting to hear about the two different worlds and how they're kind of coming together. Evan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me. I hope we hear much more about Michel and Augustin in the future. Please
give
us
it one more try. Give me a little.
Michel and Augustin.
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 Very good.
All right, well done.
Love it.
Please send some samples to the office. We'd love to have them.